Well, here we are. Tomorrow is going to be Legacy of the North's first ever Winter Invitational, and here I am recording introductions for the last Legacy event. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, check out the announcement video. I'll probably put like a card up here that will take you directly to it. 600 subs, we're going to do a giveaway, and then 1,000 subs, we're going to do a bigger giveaway. And if you haven't watched any of the videos before this, apologies for the glare. Because of the invitational tomorrow, I won't have enough time to put up the digital cards, so hopefully it's not too bad for these next 3 videos. Okie dokie, enjoy the top 8. Alrighty then, we are back with the semifinals match between Jaime on Dimir Death Shadow and Chris on Doomsday. So Jaime is the higher seed here, and that means he will be most likely going first. And let's take a peek at their opening hand. So we see Wasteland, Reanimate, Scalding Tarn, Brainstorm. Then it looks like there's a Stalactite Stalker. Oh, there's 2 Reanimates. 3 Reanimates. Wow, that's a lot of Reanimates. So 1 Stalactite Stalker, 3 Reanimates, Brainstorm, Scalding Tarn, Wasteland. So this actually doesn't... This is pretty terrible, actually. I was going to say you could Brainstorm away those Reanimates, but you have to crack the fetch before you Brainstorm, meaning you're going to Brainstorm lock yourself. Unreasonably introducing like a lot of risk, because you could potentially draw a fetch land to shuffle your deck, but I don't think you want to gamble it. I think it's always best to have the shuffle effect before brainstorming when you really need it. So it looks like Chris is going to keep his 7. So we're gonna look at Jaime's 6. There's a Daze, Double Grief, Brainstorm. There is an Orcish Bowmaster. So this is the first time we've seen an Orcish Bowmaster in Jaime's hand. I think I'm not sure what the middle card in his hand is, so we'll get a better look at it once the game starts. Oh, so Chris is the higher seed. That's my mistake. So he'll be going first, and he'll start with a Tropical Island into Ponder. So we did navigate that card that I didn't know to the top of Jaime's hand, but still, even with the better look at it, with all these different alternate arts and everything, I still don't know what card it is. But Chris shuffled his Ponder and drew blindly off the top, and it looks like he's just going to pass. Jaime going to draw for his turn. That's a Murktide Regent. So I think the card that I didn't know is the Death Shadow. Going to Grief. Probably going to be pitching the Death Shadow, if that's the card. The question mark card. I think Bowmaster is a little bit better than Death Shadow in this matchup. Confirmed it is a Death Shadow. It's the RPTQ promo. I think that's what the events are called, but yeah. Chris has a very solid hand with Lotus Petal, Thoughtseize, Daze, Doomsday, One Ring, and Force of Will. I was gonna say that you could take the Thoughtseize, but yeah, you're basically 1 Dark Ritual away from getting Doomsday. Chris so graciously playing with his hand open. Alright, Chris gonna draw for turn. Lotus Petal. It's gonna be a Lotus Petal into Lotus Petal, and then pass the turn. Jaime thinking about cracking. Probably just gonna shock himself down to 17. So this is a dead giveaway for Death Shadow. Obviously, Jaime exiling the Death Shadow to the Grief earlier, but there's no deck that's gonna be running Water Graves unless it's a budget deck. And I guess in this day and age, it's kind of hard to tell. But generally, people playing Legacy will have their duels. Alright, Jaime gonna draw for turn. It is a Street Wraith. Gonna cycle it down to 15. Draw off the top. It is another Water Grave. So that gives a 2nd mana for a Bowmaster. Gonna go down to 13. And probably just gonna pass. This leaves for a lot of flexibility here. Can Brainstorm at the end of turn. He can hard cast a Bowmaster and then Daze like with backup. Or he can hard cast Daze. And, I mean, hardcasting Daze is probably the worst play you could possibly do. But he's just going to pass the turn back to Chris. Chris going to draw. I'm not sure at what point of the turn we are here. But Jaime gonna... Okay, so Chris passed the turn. Jaime tried to flash in a Bowmaster at the end step. But Chris dazes it. And in response. Alright, so Jaime gonna fire off a main phase brainstorm here. Finds Ponder, Stalactite Stalker, and a Wasteland. So not bad. I think you can put the Grief and Murktide on top. It depends on how much you value the Grief. Like, Chris is so far behind on mana sources. I mean, I guess he does have the double Lotus Petal, and he could be one Dark Ritual away from just Doomsdaying or one ringing. So, it is actually quite scary not knowing what that one card is from Chris. Maybe the extra information from Grief isn't terrible. So you're gonna put the Daze below and Murktide on top. Going to Grief, pitch the Stalactite Stalker. And I think he's going to Ponder to try and get the Murktide back. That's a personal tutor, the new art personal tutor. So we could... It's still kind of awkward, because even if Chris uses the personal tutor, he needs to cast the personal tutor, then he has to draw the Doomsday, and then he has to draw another black source of mana, so he is still quite far away. I think you could probably just take the One Ring here. Either the One Ring or the Thoughtseize. Okay. Takes the personal tutor. I guess it's because he could... Like, this is justifiable because Jaime doesn't have any pressure going on. Even though he could try to pick up a Murktide here, but the Murktide isn't coming down this turn. So just trying to not get Doomsdayed instantly is not a bad decision. I think you could draw the Daze and then draw into the Murktide the turn after. So you can stack a Daze, Murktide, Petty Theft. That's how that's how he plays it, and then he's gonna just lay down a Wasteland. Just gonna pass the turn. Chris gonna draw, plays Tropical Island, and passes the turn back. Jaime gonna draw the Murktide Regent. Gonna Wasteland the Tropical Island. Hopefully they play it there's verbal communication saying like he'll float mana and go through battle phases and everything. Just like proper Magic play. But if not, then it's fine. Chris is a pretty relaxed guy. So Murktide coming in as a 5/5, so that's 2+1/+1 counters. Chris gonna draw for turn. And just gonna pass back. Jaime gonna draw the Petty Theft and comes swinging in for 5. Drops Chris down to 15. So this is now a 3-turn clock. Chris is gonna play a Misty Rainforest. Are we gonna see a Doomsday here? It looks like he's just gonna pass the turn. Jaime gonna untap. So this is a mystery card. It is a 3rd Water Grave. Jaime gonna come in for 5, bringing down Chris to 10. Play the Water Grave, shock it down to 11, and pass the turn. Chris gonna draw for his turn. Is he gonna start acting here? No, he's just gonna pass. I think Jaime was contemplating on flashing in the Brazen Borrower, but it's not very beneficial here. Like, it doesn't change the clock in any way. He's gonna fire off the Brainstorm instead. Sees double Daze into Bowmaster. So I think you can stack it so you have triple Daze. I think triple Daze is probably the best here because like neither of the Bowmasters nor the Brazen Borrower are going to be changing the clock of this Murktide Regent. So having all of this disruption is probably the best scenario. Chris going to crack his Misty Rainforest, go down to 4. Find an Underground Sea. Like, I think if this was the play, I think he should have just used the Thoughtseize to see what he was working with, but... Okay, so there's an end step Consider. This changes it, so now Thoughtseize is not terrible. Gonna hardcast a Daze. I think Chris could just let this resolve, right? Yep. Chris gonna go to his turn. Going to draw. There's a Bayou. Going to try to cast a One Ring. Down comes Daze. Gonna fight over it. Pitching force. There's another Daze. Ah, so there's a Veil somewhere in the hand. So Jaime takes it over Chris, making it 1-0. Okay, so we are here for game number 2. Chris gonna be on the play. Get to see a good look at Jaime's hand. Double Ponder, Double Brainstorm, Murktide, Watergrave, Wasteland. Has quite a few cantrips to get him there, but I'm not sure if that's what you want to be doing against the Doomsday. I think you want to have a solid piece of disruption in the opening hand. Looks like Jaime agrees, and also looks like Chris is settling for his 7. So if you guys didn't check out the earlier rounds, we discussed that Chris is okay playing the mid-rangey kind of game plan. So he's not, his strategy isn't to just turbo Doomsday whenever he can, because it leaves him a little bit more open and a little bit more susceptible to disruption. So he's okay just grinding it out with Thought Seizes, trying to sculpt a better hand with Brainstorms and Ponders and his cantrips. And he can play just like this lower game, as we saw with the One Ring earlier in game number 1. So let's check out Jaime's hand. He's got Grief, Wasteland, Watergrave, Reanimate, Ponder, Brainstorm, Flooded Strand. Chris gonna open with Lotus Petal, crack the Misty Rainforest, and try to resolve a Carpet of Flowers. No disruption from Jaime. Chris gonna land this Carpet of Flowers without any disruption. There's a Daze off the top for Jaime for his draw for the turn. Jaime gonna Wasteland the Tropical Island and pass the turn? Okay, so in response to the Wasteland targeting the Tropical Island, Chris is gonna cycle his Edge of Autumn, sacrificing the Tropical Island to draw a card. Chris gonna draw the card for turn. It's gonna be an Underground Sea, and he's gonna go straight into a Ponder. Gonna immediately shuffle. I think we saw earlier in this tournament there was someone who also landed a Carpet of Flowers and it didn't generate any mana. Okay, draw blindly from the Ponder and most likely passing the turn. Jaime gonna draw. It is a Watergrave off of the top. Gonna play it, lose 2 life, go to 18. Gonna cast a Ponder of his own. Gonna see Reanimate, Orcish Bowmaster, Grief. Pretty solid options here. Looks like he is favoring the Grief, and then putting Reanimate and then Bowmaster. We are doing a little bit rearranging here. So he currently has Bowmaster in the middle. So drawing the Grief, nope, still deciding. Interesting, so it's draw Bowmaster, then Grief, then Reanimate. He's gonna pitch the Bowmaster, yeah. So he's gonna use the Bowmaster as fodder for a Grief in the hand already. Down comes a Veil of Summer, sacrificing the Lotus Petal for green mana. Jaime gonna respond with a Daze. That Grief is gonna resolve, revealing Thoughtseize Shieldred. I'm pretty sure he's taking the Shieldred here. Unfortunately, Jaime put the Reanimate as the 3rd card, so he's gonna draw a Grief here. Oh no, he has... Oh yeah, sorry, he used the Grief. Sorry, he used the Bowmaster and then stacked the Grief so that he could reanimate the Grief after on the 3rd turn. But he can... Oh, there's a Reanimate in his hand already. Okay, so if this was the case, I think I would have preferred to just reanimate Shieldred. I guess this way, no matter what, he's gonna get the Shieldred anyway if he really wants it. Is this a Doomsday off the top? Oh my gosh! Wow! He actually drew the Doomsday off the top. That is really good. I think this is what makes Doomsday such a scary deck. Especially one that's okay grinding. So you could just blindly rip a Doomsday off the top and you're ready to go. Like, it's pretty easy to... I would probably say the hardest part about Doomsday is making sure that you can play to as many outs as you possibly can. Like, getting the Doomsday isn't hard. It's not the thing you're trying to do. You're still trying to win the game with those 5 cards that you have. And making sure that you have the mana to do it. Okay, so it looks like Chris has settled on his 5 here. We know for sure that it includes an Edge of Autumn. All right, here we go. 1 Force of Will, 2 Force of Will, Beseiju, Nail. So there is a cavern in there. I wonder, does Doomsday run multiple caverns? I think he might have boarded out the One Rings. It'd be very interesting if that was part of his plan. Because One Ring into Thassa's Oracle is a quite a bit of mana, and it's quite intense. So Brainstorms into Orcish Bowmaster, Dress Down, Watery Grave. So if he can get this Dress Down to resolve in response to the Thassa's Oracle, then Chris will most likely lose. So he doesn't want the Dress Down. Very interesting. Attacks with Grief. Okay, so Jamie's just taken a path to present lethal. So if Chris doesn't win here, he's just gonna lose. But now Chris knows that he's completely free to do whatever he needs. Goes down to 4, cycling the Street Wraith. There's his Thassa's Oracle from the 2 Watery Graves. And yeah, so he's generated the carpet, or the mana from the carpet, and he's good to go. So Chris will take it over Jamie in game number 2, tying it up. Okie dokie, here we are starting game number 3. Jamie took game number 1, then Chris took it back with in game number 2, and now we are here. So this is going to determine who gets to play in the finals. Jamie thinking on his 7. Looks like Chris is going to settle on his 7 as well. He generally tends to just tell his opponent whether or not he's mulliganing, whether he's on play or draw, no matter what. So I'm assuming that he's just going to keep his 7. Jamie just deep in the tank now. Going to mulligan down to 6. All right, let's take a look at his 6. Daze, Reanimate, Flooded Strand, Ponder. There's a double Street Wraith, and he put 1 to the bottom. And that's a Stalactite Stalker. So pretty solid if he goes turn 1 Stalactite Stalker. I think that's probably the best play. Doesn't really have much disruption in his opening hand. So might as well try to be aggressive and just see if he can kill the Doomsday player before they can win the game. Alright, so he will go to his end step and get a +1/+1 counter, making it a 2/2 with Menace. Chris gonna draw for his first turn. Gonna drop down a Misty Rainforest. And probably gonna crack it to see a Ponder. Yep, there's the Ponder. Finds a basic island. So respecting Wastelands. He's very content, draws off the Ponder, just does a little bit of rearranging. Down comes a Lotus Petal and passes to Jamie. Jamie gonna draw for his turn. Looks like it is a Polluted Delta. Gonna fire off a Ponder. Get to see Flooded Strand, Scalding Tarn, Force of Negation. So just a little bit of disruption here, which is not bad at all, but pretty land heavy. Think he can crack the fetch to shuffle. He is going to shock. So finds another Water Grave. Being quite aggressive with his life total. I don't think he has a Death Shadow in hand. But Chris is it's not going to be very likely that Chris is going to be damaging Jamie back, so most of the damage to grow his Death Shadow needs to be done when he can. He's gonna Psycho Street Wraith, and he finds an Underground Sea. Gonna attack with the Stalactite Stalker, brings Chris down to 17, and there's a Reanimate on the Street Wraith. We've seen this play before. Gonna try to apply a little bit more pressure here to Chris's life total. Stalactite Stalker going to become a 3/3. Chris gonna draw for his turn, gonna play a Polluted Delta, cast a Brainstorm while the shields are down, and Jaime not representing a Orcish Bowmaster. And Chris gets to put the two worst cards on the top and then shuffle them if he wants. But we do see a Doomsday in Chris's hand. It is the card on the top. He's going to crack. Let's see if he tries to force this through. If he has Dark Ritual into Doomsday, could be what he's trying to do. If he doesn't have Force of Will or Daze backup, could be in trouble because we know that Jaime has the Force of Negation in hand. There's a Ponder. So taking the slow route, not a big deal. So he has 5 cards in hand. Going to check out the Ponder. Going to shuffle. I wonder what kinds of cards he's looking for. He has the Doomsday in hand. I'm wondering if he's looking for like specific pieces, or if he's just trying to piece together a way to get the Doomsday to resolve. He's gonna pass back. Jaime gonna draw for turn. It is a Ponder off the top. Going to start off with the Ponder. Going to see Force of Will, Orcish Bowmaster, Reanimate. This is not bad. Jaime has quite a good clock. It's representing 3-turn lethal, so he can probably grab this Force of Will and kind of just sit on it. Another thing is, if Chris is going to be trying to play this slow plan and just cantrip every turn, the Orcish Bowmaster could also be a pretty good option. So he is going to grab an Orcish Bowmaster, swing in for 6, bring Chris down to 10, and now he has Orcish Bowmaster backup with the Force of Negation in the Daze. So next turn, he will have Daze Force backup. So this is a really, really good position for Jaime. It's hard to tell the exact position because we don't know what's in Chris's hand other than like one Doomsday. And that he's just blind shuffled and drawn off Ponders. I think there's a Force of Will in Jaime's hand. Or not Jaime, in Chris's hand. Alright, looks like he's just gonna pass. Jaime gonna try to flash in a Bowmaster on Chris's end step. Looks like it resolves and he's going to try to ping Chris for 1. Chris gonna take the ping. Jaime gonna amass an Orc army. Chris gonna respond before Jaime's turn. He's gonna try to Orcish Bowmaster himself. Gonna target the Bowmaster and make an Orc army for his own side of the battlefield. And now he's just gonna try to pass it back to Jaime. Jaime gonna draw. It's the Force of Will that we know about. So this still isn't a terrible position. Yeah, so this might force Chris's hand to just double block. Yeah, and take the 4 damage going down to 5. Chris's life total getting really low here. Especially because he couldn't trade with the Stalactite Stalker. So Chris is like he basically needs to do something right now. But Jaime has so much disruption, like he has 2 counter spells in his hand. So this is good. This is a really tough position for Chris. He's gonna need to land a really well-timed Veil of Summer here. There's a Dark Ritual. Down comes Doomsday. I think this is where we see the Force of Will. Wow. Oh, because he can hardcast Force of Negation. Okay. Not bad here. Gonna try to Veil of Summer. Here's a hardcast Force of Negation. Does he have the Force for the Force? There is a Force of Will. Exiling Consider. Down to 4. Gonna draw off of the Veil of Summer, and we are going to resolve this Doomsday. Go down to 2. So Chris needs to win on this turn. Jaime has no cards in hand. Chris does have 2 mana up. So it looks like he knows exactly which 5 that he wants. Oh, he puts 1 back. It looks like it was a Lotus Petal. There's a Lion's Eye Diamond, an Edge of Autumn. There is a Lotus Petal in there. But that's only 4 cards. What's the 5th card? There's Thoracle. So Lotus Petal, Lion's Eye Diamond, Thoracle, Edge of Autumn are the 4 cards we definitely know about. We also don't know what cards are in Chris's hand. So there's a Brainstorm. Draws 1, 2, 3. Edge of Autumn, Lion's Eye Diamond. Oh, so there's a Dark Ritual. So it looks like he is conceding. I think he said that I think he said he put it in the wrong order. Okay, yeah. So it looks like he has conceded, and he's just walking through the lines. So Jaime will be taking it over Chris, 2-1. So it looks like they're going to be talking through it. I think I captured all this footage. So I'll fast forward to the end to see if there's actually a line, because I think the judge also puts in her idea, and I think they actually figure it out at the end. So I'll force forward to the end, but hope you guys enjoyed this one. Next one will be the last video for this event, and then we will be moving on to the next face-to-face event, and then after that, we will have the invitational footage. So I hope you guys are excited for that. I will see you guys next time.